Hey guys, so I'm super excited to make this video for you today because we're going to be covering two high growth stocks, both of which are currently trading under $50 a share, and both of which have the potential to bring us as investors some massive returns. So I did a lot of research to make this video for you guys, so I'd appreciate an early thumbs up. But with that being said, let's not waste any time and let's get right into it. So my first pick is a company that I have literally been waiting and salivating from the mouth just for the mere opportunity to invest into this company. And in literally 4 days from today, that dream can finally become a reality. And I truly believe that this is one of the greatest and rarest opportunities to hit the market in recent history. And that company is Airbnb, who will officially begin trading on the NASDAQ under the ticker symbol ABNB this Thursday on December 10th. Now they are seeking a valuation of about $35 billion, meaning that when their stock officially starts trading on the market, it should be priced at around $45 to $50. And trust me, this is an opportunity that you are not going to want to miss out on, because for a multitude of reasons that we will be getting into today, this is a company that will undoubtedly dominate their industry over the next decade. And at the very minimum, this will be a 10x opportunity. Mark my words. So first of all, as we all well know, there are few industries that have been hit harder by the pandemic than the travel and leisure industries, with airlines, cruise lines, and hotels being some of the most impacted sectors. And in fact, just recently, the American Hotel and Lodging Association sent a warning to the government that their industry is still literally in a crisis and that thousands upon thousands of hotels are in jeopardy of being closed forever. But now here's the important part to understand, and what so many people are not realizing is that this pandemic will actually end up being a blessing in disguise for Airbnb and a catalyst that will change everything for them going forward. You see, although there is little to no doubt that Airbnb has struggled mightily this year, what you have to remember is so has the entire hotel industry. But then the difference here is that Airbnb will still be around next year, whereas the same cannot be said for literally thousands of hotels who simply couldn't make it. And considering that a multitude of vaccines will start to be globally distributed over the next couple of weeks, it's seeming more and more likely that things will finally start to return back to normal very shortly, and people are already starting to travel more and more again. So when you combine the likely tremendous resurgence in travel with the fact that there will be significantly less competition around, Airbnb is perfectly positioned to not only capitalize, but to absolutely dominate and gain even more market share. Not to mention that Airbnb is just flat out a far superior product in almost every way conceivable. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for the past couple of years, whenever I've traveled, I try to avoid traditional hotels at absolutely all costs. And mind you, this is coming from someone who could have easily gotten the most discounted rates at the majority of hotels, because my mother used to work as a maid at one of the largest hotel chains in the world for over 25 years. But yet, time and time again, I would instead opt in for a far more authentic experience with Airbnb, who empowers locals by enabling them to rent out their homes to tourists, and the possibilities for us as guests are literally limitless, with options ranging from luxury villas to tree houses to even boats and castles, which are all but guaranteed to make sure that your trip is truly unforgettable. But now let's get into the really good stuff, the actual numbers and the massive opportunity that Airbnb has ahead of themselves. So since inception, they now have well over 4 million hosts, and these hosts have welcomed over 825 million guests into their homes and have earned over $110 billion in earnings, which is not bad for a company who was founded in 2007 by two designers who were simply trying to figure out how they would afford to pay their rent, because they had recently just moved to New York City, and in case you didn't know, rent here is expensive as well, luckily for them, they ended up coming up with the genius idea of dropping a few airbeds on the floor and literally putting up a website called Airbnb bed, and breakfast. And well, the rest is history. And now fast forward to today, just a couple of years later, and Airbnb has one of the greatest competitive advantages in travel that is not talked about enough, and that is the fact that they have generated massive global brand awareness, meaning people all around the world know about Airbnb, which has not only led to unrivaled demand, but just as importantly, it has led them to having global supply. So much so that even if you were to combine 5 of the biggest hotel chains in the world, their number of available rooms would still be dwarfed in comparison to Airbnb's more than 7 million listings, which span over 100,000 cities worldwide. And this really highlights the importance and the power of the platform, and what was once thought to be a competitive advantage is now more of a crippling weakness for these dinosaurs of companies, and it will lead to their ultimate demise because the trend is becoming crystal clear. Uber doesn't own any cars, Amazon barely has any stores, and Alibaba owns no inventory whatsoever. Yet these companies are dominating their industries. So when you compare a company like Airbnb, who owns no real estate yet has millions of properties at their disposal, to the traditional hotel industry that has far less to offer but yet has to pay exponentially more to manage and pay for all of their properties, not to mention their tremendous payroll and maintenance expenses, which begs the question, how can these companies even compete? They can't. Now, one of Airbnb's most important metrics is their annual nights and experiences booked, because it really dictates just how much money they are actually able to make. Because obviously, the more people who book nights and experiences on the Airbnb platform, then the more total transactions that Airbnb can take a cut of. Now, from 2015 to 2019, their growth was tremendous, growing an average of almost 50% year over year, which took them from just having 72 million bookings in 2015 to scaling to over 325 million bookings by 2019, which is just incredible. But now obviously these numbers were impacted tremendously when the pandemic hit and lockdowns were enacted all around the world, which prevented the majority of people from even traveling. But thanks in large part to their visionary founder, Brian Chesky, Airbnb quickly pivoted to promoting nearby getaways, aka staycations. And with most people being sick and tired of being cooped up at home, it didn't take long for them to start flocking at the opportunity. And this newfound strategy, along with them working extremely hard to drastically cut their cost, led to them being able to post a miraculous profit of $219 million and surprising everyone, including themselves probably, in the process. Now, revenues were still down about 18% to $1.3 billion. But all in all, I would say that this was undoubtedly a massive win for them to even be able to pull off these kinds of numbers, despite them facing a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic that is quite possibly the literal worst-case scenario that could have ever possibly happened to them. So guys, I am beyond bullish on Airbnb, and although they will definitely be posting a tremendous loss for 2020, this does not concern me whatsoever, because I have absolutely no doubt in my body that they will be rebounding in a major way, and also significantly faster than most people are realizing, especially with the decreased competition. Also, strictly from an investor's point of view, this could potentially be one of the rarest and most unique opportunities ever. You see, by far and away, the majority of IPOs take place under the most ideal conditions, meaning that the company is in a position of power, because they of course want to command the highest valuation possible, so that all of their insiders, which are all the private investors who invested early into these companies like Airbnb, can now finally cash out their ginormous returns at the expense of us, the retail investors. But this time the tables have turned, and Airbnb is now going public simply out of pure necessity more than anything else, And thus, as retail investors, we now have a golden opportunity to invest in a category disrupting company at a far lower valuation than had they just IPO'd a few months before the pandemic changed everything for them. And thus, as long as you are a long-term investor who is willing to hold for the next 3 to 5 years and you believe that the travel industry will eventually recover like I do, then I consider Airbnb to be an absolute no-brainer. And honestly, it's almost as close as you can get to a can't-lose opportunity, and one with the potential to 10x, if not more, over the next 5 to 10 years. But pay close attention because this is extremely important. IPOs are notorious for initially skyrocketing in value just on the hype alone, but yet almost always end up having a significant pullback over the next 4 to 8 weeks after going public. So my personal recommendation is, depending on your level of risk tolerance, you should only put about 10 to 30% of your desired total investment on the day that Airbnb actually IPOs. And then it usually is best to wait a few weeks in order to let some of the hype die down, so you can then continue gradually adding to your position as it experiences an inevitable pullback. Also, real quick, before we get into my second pick, I have a massive announcement to make because the day has finally come, and this week we are officially embarking on a new challenge that will be known as the 10K to 100K challenge, where I'll be starting a brand new portfolio and funding it with $10,000. And no, we're not talking about some bullshit paper trading account. This will be a real, brand new portfolio that I'll be creating specifically for this challenge, where I'll be showing the exact steps that I would take if I had to start all over again from scratch, and with the goal to aggressively grow my capital as fast as possible to over $100,000 while only taking very calculated risk. So I am beyond excited for this challenge, and we'll even be mixing in some options trading with this as well. And all of this will be starting this very week over on Patreon. So if you're interested in joining the family and following us along this journey, this is your opportunity, because signups will only be open for the next few days, and then they will be completely closed for the rest of the month. And just to recap, membership not only helps support the channel, but also includes exclusive benefits like access to our private Discord channel, exclusive content, plus you'll have 24/7 access to my entire $1 million stock portfolio. And on top of that, you'll also get access to my buy or sell signals, meaning you'll know every single stock I decide to buy right when I buy it, and you'll know exactly when I decide to sell my position. Now, if this is something that would interest you, or you're just curious and you want to know more information, simply click the link below, and I made a quick 3-minute video for you and posted it on my Patreon page that explains in depth not only the benefits of becoming a Patreon member, but also what our community is all about and what we want to accomplish with this platform. So I can't wait to work with you one-on-one, and I can't wait to grow this community to become one of the most impactful communities ever. And with that being said, I'll see you on the other side. Thank you. Now for my second and final pick, and this is a company that very few people on this planet even know about, let alone fully understand. Yet on the flip side, they likely already know almost everything there is to know about you. And yes, today we're talking about Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR, which was once coined the most dangerous company to IPO ever. And about 5 months ago, I made this video where I went into an extreme amount of detail explaining exactly why I was so excited for this once so secretive company to finally go public. And boy, did they not disappoint. Now I'm going to keep this one short because I plan on making an in-depth standalone video very soon. But there are 2 major upcoming catalysts that will be an absolute game changer for Palantir, and we'll be outlining both of them along with going over some key factors that not many people are talking about or even realizing, and yet they will have massive implications on Palantir stock going forward. But first, real quick, for those of you who may not be too familiar with Palantir, they are a software company like no other, founded by the legendary Peter Thiel and Alex Karp almost 2 decades ago, and they are now revolutionizing the way companies analyze big data. But more importantly, they are a software company that is on a mission to literally change the world for the better in every way, shape, and form imaginable. And they have a slew of far-reaching contracts ranging from streamlining and scaling disaster relief operations after catastrophic events such as hurricanes, to even more highly classified government contracts in the fight against terrorism, or how they even develop technology that helps victims of human trafficking. So no matter how you slice it, it is damn sure that they never have a dull day in the office, and the projects that they work on truly matter. Now, since going public just about 2 months ago, their stock has gone absolutely parabolic, at one point more than tripling to over $30 a share before coming back down to reality. But now here are some of the key metrics that you need to understand in order to know where this company is heading. So their third quarter earnings were simply phenomenal. There's just no other way to put it, with their revenue growing by a whopping 52% year over year to $289 million. And their average revenue per customer grew over 38%, which shows that their customers absolutely love what their software brings to the table and that they simply can't live without it. Now in total, they have 132 customers, which might not sound like a lot to you, but remember, as I always preach on this channel, quality over quantity. You see, their average customer pays them a staggering $5 million a year, and with the average contract length being almost 4 years long, which is huge because it shows a constant, reliable stream of revenue, and all these astronomical numbers are possible only because Palantir is laser focused on targeting only the top 6,000 companies in the world, who are all doing well over $500 million in annual revenue. And these are the kinds of customers that Palantir does business with. But now here's where things get really interesting, because despite posting these incredible, earth-shattering numbers, they still somehow ended up reporting a loss for their quarter of over $853 million, which is definitely not good. But here's what so many people are not realizing, and that is the fact that nearly 92% of this loss came directly from stock-based compensation related to going public. Now, Palantir is infamous for attracting and hiring some of the smartest and most talented engineers on the planet, which definitely doesn't come cheap, because often to hire the best, you have to pay the best. And so here's the key. That ginormous amount of stock-based compensation was a one-time, non-recurring expense.
I like that.
Meaning that their actual loss was only around $73 million. Thus, they are much closer to reaching profitability than the majority of people are giving them credit for. And thus, this will be a massive catalyst in the quarters to come. So now for the second major upcoming catalyst, and it has to do with the simple fact that their software stack is upwards of 5 to 10 years ahead of the competition. And this is because of one critical decision that their founder, Alex Karp, made several years ago.
Palantir builds products approximately 5 years before the world knows that it needs these products. Of course, we didn't know that would come, but we were betting that there would be economic and political conditions that meant the old way would not be efficacious. The need to supply a complete stack of software to an enterprise was built on the bias that we believed that crisis in the Western world would be so extreme that the Frankenstein monster way of servicing an enterprise with 50 different products would not work in a time of either economic or political crisis.
And now it is clear that his bet is paying off tremendously, especially in a world filled with massive uncertainties and one that is currently battling off a global pandemic. Palantir has been pegged a savior of sorts, because of their software, which will be playing an integral part in tracking and helping to distribute vast amounts of vaccines through complex global networks all throughout 2021, which will be an explosive growth driver for the stock price for many quarters to come. So guys, I am becoming more and more bullish on this category disrupting company, and with almost $2 billion of cash on hand, which not only gives them the ability to invest heavily into research and development, but also enables them to be able to scale immensely and very quickly. Not to mention that they have only just recently began focusing and expanding into more commercial applications for their products. Thus, this is a company that just seems to be on a whole other playing field. In terms of both their tech and even more importantly, the pace at which they are innovating. And ARK Invest and the legendary Cathie Wood, who are world renowned for investing into innovation early on, have also slowly but surely been loading up on more and more Palantir shares, and just over the past couple of weeks they have accumulated over 1 million shares of Palantir into their ARKW ETF. Now, in terms of an ideal entry point, I would wait for a bit more of a pullback since their stock did just run up so much. But I believe that anywhere in the low 20s would make for an absolutely great entry point for this high growth stock. Also, as a bonus for everyone who made it up until this point in the video, I know a lot of people have been messaging me and wondering about my thoughts with the whole recent bill that passed, in which could lead to several Chinese stocks such as NIO, XPeng, and Alibaba getting delisted from the major exchanges. But now here are the two most important things that you need to know about this whole situation. One, this is nothing new. In fact, both sides have been going back and forth about this very same issue for well over 20 years now. And even though the bill has already passed, these companies now have a whole 3 years to comply with these new regulations before being at risk of being delisted. And the reality of the matter is that delisting these companies would hurt Americans more than anyone else. So I have no doubt that both sides will get together and figure out a solution within the next 3 years. Especially when you consider that a Biden administration now seems likely. So yeah, honestly, I'm not really concerned about this at all. And as my Patreon family members already know, we've been taking advantage of some of these stocks that are on sale. Because remember, you should always be greedy when others are fearful. Now, if you found any value in this video at all, and I hope you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notifications bell. Also, I love talking to you guys, and I always try my very best to reply to as many comments as possible. So let me know your thoughts on my stock picks, and let me know what stocks or topics you want me to talk about next in the comment section below. Also, remember, if you're interested in becoming a Patreon member and joining the private community, it'll be the first link in the description box. But remember to sign up quick, because signups will only be open for a few days and then they'll be closed for the rest of the month. But with that being said, especially if you made it to this point in the video, I have so much love for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have an absolutely amazing rest of your day. Peace.